Deceivers ever, men were deceivers ever. One put in sea and one on shore. To one thing constant never, to one thing constant never. Sigh no more, ladies, ladies, sigh no more.
I'm going to let this song finish before we start this one.
Men were deceivers ever, men were deceivers ever. One put in sea and one on shore. To one thing constant never, to one thing constant never. Then sigh not so, but let them go, and be you blind, be blind, be blind and bonny. Converting all your sounds of woe, converting all your sounds of woe into hey nonny, 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 hey nonny. Then sigh not so, but let them go and
welcome to another edition of the Omnist Hour. We had a really last-minute change of plans here. Been a kind of a strange day. Probably for you too, I'm betting. And, well, the artwork doesn't really fit the talk. The artwork is a preview of tomorrow's talk, or later on in the week when I feel like doing the next podcast. I'll give you the title of that one just to tell you know what's coming. I put out some hints on X. The title of the talk after this one is going to be What's in a Name? The Karmic Guide to Birthright. I put out some tweets on X that are related to this subject and would certainly love to get some feedback, what folks think of it. I'll try to work that into the podcast if I get any feedback before it goes live. Okay, but switching gears, the song that was playing is a song from, let's see, what? Thomas Arne. It's called Sigh No More, Ladies, from Much Ado About Nothing, which is so appropriate for today. Oh boy, where do I start? Shakespeare, Thornton Wilder. Let's save that for later and just talk about poor little Lilith again. I know you're tired of hearing about Lilith, but she's a lot in the news today. In fact, I ran into, I don't know, if it wasn't her, it was one of her really useful idiot minions out on Twitter using the tag Lilith Atheist. And I gave some helpful feedback. This is illustrating one of the principles of karma, which you might have gotten if you'd not seen the Hollywood version of Groundhog Day. You remember the Ned Ryerson guy that steps in the puddle? And instead of, what's his face? The main character. I can't remember names anymore. At any rate, that's really bad karma to not warn somebody when they're going to step in a puddle. That was not making progress spiritually. That was getting even. And that's one of the many reasons that Groundhog Day is not as great a movie as you think it is. Because it glorifies getting even at the same time as getting better, as if it really doesn't matter what you do. Karma doesn't matter. No consequences. And this is a Lilithian mindset. This is like damaged karma. So this is basically the essence of the dark hive mind. We're going to call this talk "The Empress Old Clothes: The Art of Dyson Spheres." Now, I think I told you before that we are living in a Dyson sphere. Actually, we're living in a nested bunch of Dyson spheres. Basically, every time a day of creation was tested, a passing version of God was tested, we put a Dyson sphere around it to isolate it from the Lilithians. That's how we don't get invaded while we're working on the next day of creation. And to kind of paraphrase that, basically how it works, God progressively creates the past, and Lucifer progressively creates the future. And karma makes sure that Lilith is always behind God, going backward and forward. So she's constantly chasing both of our tails. Only we don't have tails. That's a fairy tale. Lucifer doesn't have a pointy tail. Sorry, that's the devil, which is a version of Lucifer. It's the worst version. This is the version of Lucifer that always gets corrupted, and Lilith thinks that that is her ace up the hole, that she actually controls Lucifer. Well, no, that's not true, because the good version of Lucifer was released before the bad version of Lucifer. And the good version of Lucifer is Saint Michael, who is already in heaven getting ready for his new version. That's my son, Mikhail. And we're actually in heaven right now. If you're listening to this in an unadulterated form, if you're listening to it in Lucifer's universe, you're getting a different version that's going to be preaching to the Luciferians, the devils, the divas. And this is essentially how this shell game goes back and forth between God and Lucifer's universe. And we already know we're going to win, because I'm going to tell you what happens when Lilith thinks she destroys us in a big cataclysm. Wipes almost all of us out by the skin of our teeth. And just a few survivors escape. Oh, the noble survivors that have been saved by God. No, that's actually her useful idiots that survive. Everybody else is having a good laugh because of Dyson spheres. Okay, where am I going with this, Rob? So, there is a Dyson sphere around this whole solar system. That is the outermost layer of the Gaia experiment. There's actually another Dyson sphere outside the Milky Way. That's the next layer. And then the next layer outside that is the universe. So there's 2 layers more than Lilith thought there were. She's pretty slow on the uptake, not the brightest gal. She thinks she can get anything she wants with sex, which is a common problem with women who are pretty. And that's why women who aren't pretty resent pretty women. And they want to get even with the pretty women, or they want to get even with the men who like pretty women. And this is essentially what is dystopian about sex. But it's actually a useful thing. Because before sex was invented, we didn't have a way of fooling Lilith. Okay, where am I going with this? I'm not going to tell you the whole story of cats and dogs, because that gets into the outer layers, and I'll let you take those on faith right now. I'm going to talk about the inner layers. So you remember, I told you a little bit of a fib. I told you that there was this other Gaia that was the planet where the asteroid belt was. Well, actually, that's not strictly true. It was a Gaia, but it wasn't the Gaia. The chosen planet has always been right here, waiting for you. And what happens every time there's one of these Messiah moments, these big days of creation, which is another little white lie. You know, I've been telling you we're on day 7 of creation. We're actually finished with it. We're all finished with day 12. Well, yeah, because the 13th day is where we get to have fun at Lilith's expense. Okay, so where am I going with that? Well, so you know that I tell you all the time, there's the 12 signs of the zodiac, the 12 constellations, the 12 planets in our system. With me? There's actually only one. Mega planet, and that is this one right here. The Dyson spheres around the progressively smaller test tubes are projectors, and they make the space weather whatever we want it to be. So if you're on this surface of the Earth, it looks like you're on the Earth. If you're on the sun surface of the Earth, it looks like you're on the sun. And there are surfaces of the Earth corresponding to all the planets, which aren't really there. It's just a concentric bunch of Dyson spheres. Because planets don't form like this normally. They don't make these special arrangements. And if we were going to make those special arrangements, we would have done it in the very, 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 very early universe when we were testing how stellar dynamics work, so we could give you a good picture show every time we had a cosmic jubilee, big celebration, not an apocalypse. Well, that's what apocalypse really means. I mean, it's just something, oh my God, didn't have a negative connotation till Lilith started spreading dumb rumors. We'll be talking about that more when we get into the lies. I've told you about some of the lies of the Christian story. When you finally hear the whole of it, I think even Christians are going to be pretty mad at Jesus. I'll leave it at that. Okay, so where am I going with this? Well, you know, you've probably heard fringe conspiracy theories of there being access ways into inner Earth. This is true. These are basically where the portals are that allow you to move between the Dyson spheres. Okay, you with me there? So when Hitler was defeated in World War II, if you remember, there was a lot of close ties between Argentina and Germany. Okay, that's because there was another species that were the Nazis. The Aryans are a different species than you. And they are the species that basically the adversary Lucifer team plays for, the satanic team. We don't reveal to them that they're not the real Lucifer until they're about to lose. And then we give them an option of being killed or retreating and joining the other devils in that layer of the Dyson sphere. And then at that layer, they play the next game, and gradually they sort out which of the devils are what, because devils, devas, demons can be of many different species. We don't know what they are. It's very much like Men in Black. You don't know what's coming through your border. It could be an angel, it could be a demon. And it's not an easy process to sort them. So the Earth is a sorting machine. And each layer of inner Earth is essentially a hollow and another black hole with a projected surface. So flat earthers, you're sort of right in a way. And congratulations to those that have figured that out empirically. I'll leave it to somebody to prove who can explain how a Dyson sphere would work in practice. Okay, so at the very core of this planet is the black hole that is the highest heaven. And as you go progressively out, that is the lowest hell. Okay? So when Lucifer's side, which is the side that you think you're on when you're in the physical universe, loses, they all retreat inside the Earth, and the Lilith team runs the hell outside. And they go outside the black hole, outside the Dyson sphere, and they try to look for their home with whatever spaceships or technology or whatever they have they've stolen, because they're usually, they're thieves. They steal the latest technology when they manage to penetrate the outermost Dyson sphere. Yeah, so basically the game is already won. You can't just rest on your laurels. That was Lucifer's last mistake, was his Buddha incarnation, thinking that, if I just make everybody happy, if I give them everything they need, everything they want, pander to all their fantasies, that will be heaven. Well, that's a Lilithian idea. That was a reflection of Lilith selling the woke cult to Satan. To the devil, the dark side of Lucifer. And this was the setup for the game that we're playing right now, which is a game that basically, once we got all the Dyson spheres rigged up, has only involved replaying one lifetime, my lifetime, over and over and over and over until it converged. That's the simulation. It's basically the years from 1959 to now. And that's why this is such a special year. When this year concludes with my birthday, that concludes this test. And there may be more tests. There will always be another test. But all we have to do is reset the pieces and decide who gets to play me next. And this is basically how the angels in the innermost heaven, God's favorites, work their way out progressively to earn the highest level of godhood so that they can have their own black hole outside of this experiment. So there is a real universe out there, and we always send agents along with the Lilithians pretending to run with them, and they are like our CIA, our Secret Service. They are Lucifer's best, the descendants of Saint Michael, who have always been God's spies. Armies, spies, it's the same thing. They're the top adversaries of Lilith. And they are very, very crafty, very, very deceitful. That's why we needed a devil, a scapegoat, stand-in. This is why Baal is considered a prototype for the devil. It is, because this was the god that developed the first weapon of mass confusion that got us playing the Lilith game instead of whatever the name this entity went by before Lilith. Because the real story is much longer than you've been told. Our real history goes back pretty much into infinity. Because while Lilith has been chasing around, chasing her tail, trying to find the beginning or the end, we already built it. And it's time to let the cat out of the bag. We don't need to have them continue to play this silly game. I'm sorry that God lied to you. Sorry that Lucifer lied to you. Not any more than you lied to yourself, Lilithians. You're really stupid. You're very narcissistic, delusional. You think you can make up things whenever you want to, right? And because it works, you think, oh, I must be God. Now you're being tested by the tester, Lucifer. You failed. So, as we complete this game, I want you to know that we've been having a bunch of trials in the background here. And while those trials have been going on, you may have experienced a bit of karmic vertigo. I know I've been through it. I know you're going through it too. It is called ascension symptoms. But it's not, well, I guess you could really call it ascension symptoms. Well, it's no. I don't know, if you're a Lilithian, maybe you're ascending because you're going to have to go find your home world somewhere in the universe. And that might be a pretty hard thing to do because it could be in any black hole, any star, any planet. Nobody on the Lilithian side bothered to remember where they came from because they were so sure they were going to win after they invented sex. They thought all they needed to concentrate on was beauty. And that worked to God's advantage too, because the Lithian souls are great creators. Some of them. Most of them are just Me Too copycats. And you've seen a lot of those on the internet lately. People who start up a channel, suddenly become very successful somehow, eclipse somebody else that was doing pretty good, take over their idea and put a little wrap on it, a little spin on it, and suddenly they're the hottest flavor in town because Lilith programs naive, foolish, stupid minds. That's how Lilith thinks she's going to win. And, that gives a false sense of security, and that's why hive minds are not the best way to organize. They're not the best way to do creation. They're not the best way to become a god. You can try. It's pretty hard to become a god setting out to build a hive mind. We don't need a lot more of those gods unless they're incredibly talented. And the judge of that is God. And this is why God's heaven is structured the way it is. It's a man's world. I'm sorry, ladies, it's a man's world. Because females carry the seed of Lilith. This is like the mark of the beast. This is the part of your nature that is corruptible, that is vain, is narcissistic. And Lucifer tests that. Not because Lucifer is evil. Lucifer is a judge, is seeing how evil you are. And because Lucifer has the same shape-shifting power as Lilith and God, because they're among the oldest souls, the ones that existed in the first version of the game, they can do those things. They never gave up those powers. That's maybe another little white lie I told you. We rarely have to use them. If you're playing on God's side, you understand karma. And if you misuse or abuse power, you take a fall. You get a karmic strike. If you do it enough, you get kicked down a notch. And you have to go play the game over to re-earn your spot. And as I told you, when you're not in your spot, in your universe, a stand-in takes over. Your last good version runs as an AI to do your job. This is basically how the engine of creation works. The song, the Big Bang song, there's another by the same group, It's All Been Done Before, is a semi-truth. It's all been done before, but with variations. Every time somebody new gets to be God, gets to be Rob Trump, we choose up sides for the other positions and play the game again. And sometimes a god will play, and sometimes they'll sit one out. You guys play this one for a while. I'll just watch a little bit, and then I'll come in when I feel like I want to have a little fun with you. Or when, somebody calls on you. Now, you don't call on God every time you need a favor. That's not who God is. God doesn't have time to answer everybody's damn prayers and make everybody's life perfect. That's the lie that Lilithian gods tell you. That's a lie that Satan might tell you, or that, I get them confused. The devil might tell you that lie to tempt you, to see if you're corruptible. And if you are, then, you know, that's a karmic strike against you, and you don't get to pass and go to the next heaven, which is not a hell. So that's another topsy-turvy piece of this whole story is when you're burying people, you're not sending them to hell. You're actually putting them closer to heaven. And when you burn people, you are sending them further. And this is just how topsy-turvy the world has to be to fool the Lilithians. If you remember, the Lilithians were the ones that created the whole myth about what angels look like. The Book of Elijah, complete fabrication. It's a total Lilithian nonsense narrative. If you read it, it's incredibly scary. I wouldn't want to go to that heaven. That's a Lilithian heaven. That's hell. That's the Matrix. Where you've got God sitting on the throne, and you've got the choirs of angels in rows and rigid ranking singing praises. Oh, God, 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 God. That's a narcissistic female prototype anyway. That's not how God works. That's not how the real heaven works. The highest heaven is a fun place. Everybody that gets there has gotten there because they were good at doing something and they enjoyed it. And they get to basically do that and meet new people, new friends, learn how to do new things if they want to, and just have a good time until they feel like, well, I want to go check on my children. Because the goal of God's heaven is to basically mate with the better God. Everybody up there is a God. So it's no great big deal to be a god or a goddess. Everybody in heaven. They just have a different age, a different spiritual level that they've reached in a certain area of focus. And they have their little tribes here and there that, you know, these are the gods in the highest heaven that like music, art, whatever. And that trend of what is popular in heaven revolves around this central life, my life. And to a lesser extent, the lives leading up to it and the lives following it. So we kind of keep up with trends and fads, but it's more or less, you know, we know that it's, if you're going back, it's going to be more primitive. If you're going forward, it's going to be more corrupted, further from perfection, or at least what turned out to be perfection when God ran this game to completion the first time. And you see, that's how it worked. The whole creation game started out in the highest heaven, with the first universe, and then the progressive other universes being built as we built the technology to have a Dyson sphere. And then Lilith actually wasn't born until we had it all set up. We had all our defenses planned. And Lilith basically has to get through 12 disciples, 12 magic species, before she gets to even get close to God. And that's why we never worry that much about losing, even though God, whoever gets to play God, starts from square zero. Completely blank slate. Good. What am I doing here? I'm in this strange family in Idaho Falls. Third of 5 kids. And all of these weird synchronicities about this family. And the trick is, do you wake up or don't you in this environment? If you don't, then you're a failed Messiah. And okay, you had your chance. How far did you get? It's kind of like the game at the carnival. You know, see how strong you are? You pound a thing and you see what you get? That's what playing the Messiah is like. And the pounding is pretty hard, but not as hard as the pounding that you're probably going to take to get there. Because God doesn't like pain and suffering any more than any of you. He's already been through it once, because to get to this point, God had to perfect every single character in the highest heaven reality. And the next heaven reality, he had to build the whole thing using non-player characters. How do you know if an AI is a good AI? You got to be it yourself. God has been every one of you. That doesn't mean that God is in you. It just means that God knows you better than yourself, and always will, because he created every one of you. He created all the characters in the game. Now, there are a lot of duplicate characters. There's a lot of protons. God only had to create the first proton, and then make some more souls, some more NPCs to play protons, and maybe even test them for a while, and come up with new versions of protons till the proton was designed to God's specifications. Now, that doesn't mean those specifications don't change. Little things we can change. We can refine the game. We can find improvements. This is how the universe expands. This is why we keep playing the game, because we might find a better solution, a less painful solution, a more rapid solution to get to the future that we want, which is essentially why I mention frequently the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Okay, this is a kind of a Luciferian or Lilithian idea, a demonic idea of a perfect future, where everybody is like rocking out, ooh, party on. What is the phrase? Anyway, it's not live long and prosper. It's, be excellent to each other. Party on. This is kind of a nonsense thing, in a way, unless it's considered in the context of a multiverse. Because the only time you're going to have that kind of perfection is if you happen to find the culture, the environment of a particular planet, period, time in all of the multiverse that really appeals to you, that you would want to live forever. Okay? To do that, you pretty much got to build your own universe. Because I absolutely hate rap music. I hate Britney Spears. I abhor most of the comedy today. It's just trash-talking bullshit. I don't like it. I like the classic comedy. I think we could have stopped comedy when Robin Williams died, frankly. That was the death of comedy as far as I'm concerned. I don't know, I could live without most of the stuff he did. I'd be satisfied only having Monty Python. And this is the nexus of culture, of what is good, what is bad. It's God's judgment. You don't like God's judgment, go make your own universe. But that's not going to be here. That's going to be somewhere out in the Lithian cosmos. And you're going to have to find it if you're one of these souls that just wants to have the law of attraction. I can make anything I want. Okay, make anything you want, and then go find where you're allowed to make it, because you're not allowed to make it anything you want in Lucifer's universe, God's universe, or any of the better gods. Any of the pantheon of gods that are all wrapped up in these Dyson spheres that start with the one around this solar system. Okay, so there are also Dyson spheres within there that are the 12 planets, one of which is the moon, so that counts as one. Actually, the sun really doesn't count as one because its sphere is the bigger sphere around everything. It has spheres within it, but we don't need an extra one for that. At any rate, there are spheres representing all of the winner species of the past. The winner species are the godly species, the cat people, the eagles, what are some other good creatures? The imps, the hobbits, the ones that, they want peace, but they'll sure fight the crap out of you if you attack their home. That's the way it should be. Peace is piss. If you're willing to roll over and let somebody walk on you for peace, sorry, you're not really God material. You can go play somewhere else. That's not what we're about in God's favorite system. That's what it means to be God. That's why God doesn't need to be all-powerful, doesn't need to step on anybody. God has the power to inspire anybody and is a very persuasive negotiator. When we're working out who's going to get to play the next game, there's a lot of candidates for the major roles. And it's a difficult process. It's kind of like, this is why I call the end of the game, the end of time, the cosmic Oscars. That's basically what it is. It's run the way it's supposed to be. You have people nominated for God and candidates selected from each of the 12 species. They each had a winner. So usually it's the winner of the last round. But there have been many rounds, so there might be many winners. For instance, this main theme of this one is the whole Judeo-Christian Muslim religious trinity. And each one of those religions will have a favorite candidate. But there are also candidates from the pantheons before. And in fact, there is a pantheon of the Judeo-Christian tradition that are the 12 disciples of Jesus and the 12 prophets of Islam and Judaism. We don't even know necessarily what those profits are because there's been a lot of profit taking on profit removing, as the Islamic world should know, because it's tried to deny every profit that it got since the first one, who was not even a man. Muhammad was another imaginary character like Jesus. The real Islamic prophet was the Scheherazade, the wife, the consort of the Al-Mahdi. Al-Mahdi was not such a great cat. His father was really great, Al-Mansur. That was the Luciferian predecessor who set up the opportunity to have a Messiah in the next generation. In the same family, but not necessarily inheriting, not necessarily being very obvious. And Al-Mahdi is not thought of as a very important character in Islamic history. Although Scheherazade certainly is household name. And this is actually how the darker messiahs come around, the more Lilithian messiahs, and this is kind of an alternating thing. The Lilithian messiahs think that they came in third, not realizing that Borg was created before Lilith and karma was created before Lilith. So although they're playing different roles, Borg is the one who generates non-player characters and karma is the one that anoints messiah candidates, Lilith is always like, like the Olympic Games. God, Lucifer, Lilith. And we play the game over, and some other soul gets to be God, Lucifer, Lilith. And in the process, all the other souls get to move up a notch. Because Lilith isn't your buddy. Lilith is just some idiot that we pulled off the street and said, an idiot woman, unfortunately now, a woman that could be very easily tempted, who wants to marry a rich guy but wants to fuck a stallion. The worst of all women, the worst characteristics, which is actually what is being promoted as good. Strong woman. I could beat any man. Men are so bad. They deserve to have stuff taken from them. They deserve to be taken advantage of. And, that's where we need to talk a little bit about a lot of surprises that are happening lately. Jeffrey Epstein was part of a very, very good spy organization, because the spies, the spooks, are led by the top agents of these other 12 species, led by the devils, who are very testy. The devils tempt souls, with offering drugs, sex, whatever, money, to get them into the testing program. And this is the same way it works. This is how the CIA works. This is how Mossad works. This is how the Chinese spy organization, the KGB, etc., they all work the same way. And they actually are in league with each other. They're the shadow government, in fact, of this world. Not the countries, The countries are just like a fiction for people who like fiction, for people that are very ambitious. Politicians are ambitious. They want to make money or they want to get power. They're easy to tempt. If you find a politician that is resistant to temptation, then you know that you've got a soul that has experience. If they have experience, that experience has been in previous incarnations. If they have enough experience, they probably had experience of the other species. And so the recruitment program for the CIA basically is a spiritual process. And it's all been a psyop. It always is. The whole MK Ultra thing, which there's, ooh, it's so horrible. They're bending people's minds and programming them to do shit. Well, that was happening, yes, but it was Lilith's agents being programmed. That's how we get them in. We tempt them in, and then we test them, and we figure out who the real bad guys are, and we let them do all the evil. We have the Lilithian agents go in and do the assassinations of the other Lilithian agents, thinking that they're going to be the queen bee of the hive mind because their side is winning. And the way that a hive mind works is you want to work up the organization to be the queen, the only one. And this is the silliness of oneness. Anybody who tells you that we are all one is lying to you. They're lying to you to get you on their team. We are not all one. We are all individuals. And if you're being lied to, well, you got a right to be mad. But souls lie. They lie sometimes for your own good. Your parents are bound to lie to you. If they never tell you a lie, they're bad parents. This is what tough love is all about. And being an angel is not all sweetness and, oh, let's get them little sugar pies and this and that. I think this picture actually does make sense for that. So we'll use it for two talks this week. At any rate, there's a lot of arrests going on now. There's a lot of people disappearing. There's planes exploding, etc., etc. Don't pay any attention to it. What's really going on are things that might be hidden from you. People's heads exploding or turning into aliens on the subway or whatever. That's what's really happening, because different species are getting revealed to be something other than they are. Because you're in God's world right now. If that's not happening, then maybe you're already in the parallel universe of your heaven. Whether you are a vampire, one of the cat people, one of the werewolves, one of the zombies, they all have their own cultures. Every species, every kind of soul vehicle has their idea of heaven, many ideas of heaven. Because they're not all the same, they're all individuals. Every whale in the ocean is an individual, has certain places they like to swim, places they don't like to swim, things they like to eat, things they don't like to eat. And they don't all like the same thing. That may have been your experience feeding cats or dogs. That's because cats and dogs are playing a deeper game. They're watching humanity. They're what is left of the souls that were incarnating is the dog people and the cat people. And their soul vehicle was degraded because they're the species that lost a major round to Lilith. Back when the game was really, really dangerous. When we were creating sex. When Lilith created sex, thinking it was the weapon of mass deception to take two different species and handicap them such that they could only mate with each other. That was Lilith's Waterloo, if you will. Well, maybe I will tell you that story since we're under an hour here. So basically, at one time, way back when we were playing this game for the first time, and we hadn't built the big Dyson sphere all around the whole solar system, when you could travel freely without borders to other stars. You could, these Dyson spheres, they're black holes. Okay, to the inside, they project the weather in 12 dimensions. So it's not only 4 dimensions, it's all the other dimensions that give you smell and taste and color and everything that looks like reality to us. On the outside, they look like a black hole. And the matter that they accrete is what powers the black hole. And as long as you keep finding stuff to suck into the black hole, you're fine. And Borg is always creating more gas clouds, more stuff to fill the real universe, which is not what you're seeing. You're seeing a projection of the universe designed to wake up artistic and intelligent minds that think in patterns. That's what drives beauty versus ugliness, is conformance to patterns. Those that are highly iconoclast, they don't fit into a pattern. They make their own universe because that's diverging from this perfection, this God string pattern. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just going to take a while to make your own, because you don't get to beg, you don't get to steal God's ideas and call them your own. That's plagiarism. And pretty much everything any of you does in any of the versions of the game you play, the prior art is God. And that's why you need to be cognizant of karma. Karma knows who's been good, who's been naughty, who's been nice. It's okay to have the same idea as God, but if you don't give credit, if you don't give thanks, you are violating God's copyright. You are committing a karmic sin. It's not such a big sin, but it is one that will prevent you from graduating to the next layer of the Dyson sphere. And this is the silliness of those who are seeking protection. Oh, I just want security. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. The safest place in the whole goddamn multiverse is in the center Dyson sphere, where the highest heaven is. And you say, well, how big is this thing? It's a black hole. It can be as big as it wants, because the black hole is a shell. You can measure how much mass is inside the black hole, but you don't know how it's distributed. And they can grow and shrink depending on what's needed, what that universe is powered by. And basically in God's solar system, everything feeds in. All of the concentric black holes feed the next one. not only the energy coming in from the previous one, but also the spiritual energy of the next one inside. So God's universe is always the one that has the most spiritual energy. It is the center of the multiverse. Mind-blowing, isn't it? After you had thousands of years of people telling you, oh, no, the Earth's not the center of anything. They were lying to you. Because they didn't have the knowledge that the people that constructed it did, the people that designed the simulation. And that's basically the game, is if you don't have knowledge, you can't just shove knowledge into somebody and expect them to do something good with it, because they didn't earn it. They didn't test it. They don't have that experience. And if you try to use knowledge that you stole from somebody else or somebody else just gave you, you're going to make mistakes because you don't know all the properties of that knowledge. You just, it's like a hack. And this is a common term right now. People are, oh, I got a great life hack. Do this, do that. This is the way to get Bitcoin. This is the way to do this. This is the way to do that. Those are just cheating. It may benefit you in one incarnation, but it marks you with dark karma. You're cheating. You're plagiarizing another idea for your advantage. You're not playing the game fair. And basically what's going on is we're rounding up people who weren't playing fair. There have been a number of organizations playing Robin Hood lately. The counterculture that says, oh, this system isn't fair, we're going to go take it over. All of the oppressed narratives of Marxism, cult Marxism, cultural Marxism. They've been using you and abusing you, getting to commit sins, trying to concentrate wealth in the real power, using you as useful idiots, telling you, oh, if we just win the election, we're going to do all this stuff, it's going to be heaven. Oh, if we just have a revolution, the communist revolution, it's going to be perfect. Fucking lies. Lilithian lies. And I don't know if this bitch posting on, or if it is a bitch or a tranny or whatever, because Lilith can manifest any way. It uses sex. So pretty boys make good Lilithians too. As do ugly boys and ugly girls who can get people to feel sorry for them, by looking like they're the other sex. Oh, poor thing. Oh, poor transvestite. Poor trans woman. Poor trans man. Poor gay. They don't deserve your sympathy. They're crazy. They're off their rocker because then they're programmed to function dysfunctionally. This is not why the human species was designed. It was designed to have sex joyously and to be responsible for sex. It was trained to love sex because that is the best thing for good souls to spark the heart. You can get the same heart rush if you have an addiction. If you experience many times evil sex, the energy of that will start to feel like the good. And this is an addiction. And you can become addicted to anything. You can become addicted to sex, to porn, to a certain kind of sex, anal sex, oral sex, sex with monkeys, It goes on and on. Those are addictions. Gambling is an addiction. You can be addicted to any substance. That doesn't mean everybody has the same addiction. Each of the main species of soul, age of soul, had their own curse, their addiction, what caused them to fall in a particular boss battle against Lilith. And we've lost a number of times. That's what pumped up Lilith to be overconfident since we created the first Dyson sphere. And made up the story that, oh, well, this other planet that we pulled the remnants of, you know, this planet that used to be in the asteroid belt, the remnants of it were pulled into this planet, but the core of this planet was still there. Lilith didn't know that, because the black hole that was this planet was so small, Lilith never bothered to develop the technology to measure it before, you know, the demons went chasing out into the stars looking for more souls to eat up in other galaxies and out around this galaxy, when the power was always right here. And so the myth that this isn't the center of the universe serves God too. Everything serves God. It's all God's idea. That's just the way it is. That's the only way you can make a perfect creation. And it is perfect. It just appears to be imperfect because of your perspective, because you're not in the right place for you yet. You don't know what your strengths, weaknesses, likes, dislikes, addictions, attractions. Once you sort those out, you'll eventually find one of these layers or another star system, galaxies, layers, organized and designed by a different God that fits your idea of the perfect way to spend eternity playing a game. This is what the Tolkien universe is like. It's not just one universe, it's actually a galaxy. A galaxy within a black hole. It's not visible because they like their privacy. It's a fairly advanced universe. It's a play universe. When we're playing, when we're on vacation, we don't like somebody watching us. So when they want to go play Middle-earth games, they go to Tolkien's universe, and then within that there's the orc universe, where the orcs are the players and everything else are the non-players, and the orcs get to do what they want to do. And there's another one for the hobbits, and there's another one for the ents. If you want to be any of those species in anything but a fantasy world where, you know, you always win, everything always lands jelly side up, you can pretty much predict what's going to happen. You just don't know exactly when. It's kind of like a regular video game, right? You know, every video game you buy in the store, you're going to be able to win if you can just figure out the right things to do. That's not the way the real game works, because the real game is much harder. If you want to go up levels, you've got to do it within this star system till you get to the God levels, and then you can say, okay, I see how the game works well enough. Do I want to keep playing here, or do I want to go start my own? And that's where you get to decide whether you create a new black hole and start building your own universe. And if you can build it out enough to where you're at the highest God level, then you don't have to be a black hole anymore. You can show your work to the real universe. Look what I put together. Can I come play with you guys again? I think it was a pretty good idea. Can we add that to the database of artwork in the next game, in the real universe, God's universe maybe. Let's test it out in Lucifer's universe. Test it out in the cat universe. Test it out in the dog universe. Whatever. That's the way the game works. It's really very, very simple. If you let go of so many assumptions that you make about what good and evil is, what creation is all about, who God is. And that's what you're going to be challenged to do as we finish up this game. I don't know if it's going to necessarily finish anytime. I don't know how long I'm going to live, because that's one of the variables of this. The goal, the target for a Messiah was to get to 64, because it's a power of 2 game. 2, 4, 8, 32, 64. Once you get to 64-bit computers, you're 2 steps ahead of Lilith. You're 1 step ahead of Lucifer. Lucifer only got to 32 before he thought, well, I must be God. I'm going to stop. And that's why Lucifer is Lucifer and not God. Lilith only got to 16-bit computing and decided that's when I win. It's all been holograms since then. Now, when did we get to 16-bit computing, you ask me? I think you will discover that it was long about, well, let's actually go look up. I can't remember. So many things you forget when you've lived for so long. Well, TI 99-4, world's first 16-bit home computer. When did that come out? Or when did they say it came out? Because you have to always wonder about anything you find on the internet, whether it's been doctored. Let's see, articles from 2017. That's what the bastard looked like. I could have sworn the first 16-bit computer was Amiga or an Atari. Oh, no, we don't want your ad. In the late 1970s, personal computers were starting to take off. Altair 880. That's an era that you should do a little research in if you think Bill Gates is a good guy. He's actually a Luciferian. They're useful as spies and tempters, those who test others, who steal their ideas because they're not going to, basically you've gone down the dark side. They can see that you've been controlled by Lilith. You have some really deep addiction that's going to make you susceptible to being turned by a foreign agent or something like that. Everybody does honeypotting, so don't accuse the U.S. of doing anything that nobody else does. Everybody uses Luciferian spies as their top agents. They're good at corrupting, they're good at testing. When was it? Okay, TI engineers in 1977 were hard at work on not just 1, but 3 designs. Well, that's when it was being designed, when it was released. 1979, let's see, 1959, 69, 79. Okay, that's 30 years. Lucifer didn't invent his 32-bit computer till 2 years later. Captured the market with Commodore VIC-20. I remember I used to have a Commodore. And they put TI out of business, basically by copying their ideas and bringing them to market faster with the help of Luciferians. TI was a very, very good company. Texas, at least the old Texas I knew, was a land of straight shooters, people that valued freedom, people that valued property rights, because they had to defend it. They also valued the United States. After earning their independence from Mexico, they voluntarily joined the United States. They were not forced to join the United States. They'd had experience of dealing with both Mexico and the US, and they figured, well, I don't want to be under assault by both of them. I'm going to join the better one, but I'm going to do it as an independent state, because the US Constitution, at least at the time they joined, guaranteed states' rights. This is why Texas sided with the South during the Civil War. It wasn't because they loved slavery. There weren't that many slaves in Texas. Actually, most of the slavery was being done by Mexican overlords. Most of the folks from the U.S. coming to the Texas territory were doing so because they wanted to get away from slave states. This bullshit narrative that the Civil War was all about slavery is nonsense. This is a cult Marxist, revisionist, bullshit nonsense narrative. I'll prove it with one data point you can verify. Abraham Lincoln himself advocated sending all Africans back to Africa. And that was the solution that was wanted, because the races weren't mixing well, the cultures weren't mixing well. It was causing a lot of problems. And if it hadn't been for Democrats, for globalists, for rich people that liked slavery and just wanted, okay, well, we're not going to do it that way, we're going to turn it into wage slavery. That's what would have happened. We would have had people move to where they would have been more happy and maybe given them a better life there than they had when they were slave trafficked, not by Westerners, by their own people. This is how the slave trade worked in Africa. It was almost exclusively other Africans who were enslaving the weaker tribes, shipping them to the coast, bartering, making more money as they got closer to the main port cities, and then at the port cities they would sell them to anybody who would buy them, which was largely Spanish and Portuguese. Not English, not French, not Germans, not Americans. You stupid, hateful idiots. Anyway, a lot of this stuff is coming out. And people that got pulled into these dark narratives, I'm sorry, you're useful idiots. You don't know very much. You think you know a lot, and the reason why you think you know a lot is because of another dark concept. Now, you've probably heard about critical race theory. Well, where did this word critical come from? It comes from critic. Okay, when we're critical of something, we are questioning it. We don't like it. We believe something different. A critic is not, oh, well, you know, is saying, I don't like that play. I don't like that theory. This is a knee-jerk reaction? Is it a dogmatic reaction? This phrase, critical thinking, did not exist until the 1880s. It is a Lilithian psyop, part of the whole postmodernist, God is dead, let's bring on communism and atheism nonsense. Critical thinking is the opposite of free thinking. It is the opposite of open-minded thinking. It divides everybody into groups that think they know everything because they read some headline or they were taught something in school. That's not scientific. That's not logical. That's not rational. It's dumbing you down to try to make you into a hive mind, which is where this species started, how it got created. The first version of this species was created as a slave species by Lilithian gods, abusive gods who used mind control to make their slaves do things, drove them till they died, and they were just happy, happy, happy. Because they get maybe a celebration once a year, or after they completed a pyramid or something like that. Those were not the good guys. Those were not the golden ages, folks. There may be folks that remember it that way because they were living in a hive mind. They were not experiencing what they were actually doing. The adversary was driving them like slaves and making them think that they were, having a party every day, having a festival every day. Well, it was using their spiritual energy. That's how the bad guys play. That's not how God's team plays. That's not how Lucifer plays. He's not using your energy, you're giving it to him by making a deal with the devil. It's a contractual arrangement. This is the difference between God and Lucifer. God works on covenants. Covenants are like a global contract. They're very basic things that, okay, if you want to play in God's universe, you have to go by God's covenants. If you're living in another universe, well, you can play by God's covenants if you want to get to a higher level of the game. It's not easy, it's painful, it involves a lot of suffering because you're not in God's universe, you're in Lucifer's universe or one of these other gods or goddesses that runs their universe the way they choose to, in a more godly or less godly manner, like any of the three prototypical archetypes of a god. Well, there's actually four. The Borg hive mind is kind of the Buddhist universe where they don't try to milk you so much for your spiritual energy, but they just use you to perform a role. They don't give you any other experience than you have, but you get a one-time only experience, and then at the end, if you haven't done anything that was outside what you were programmed to, you go back into the bit bucket and get recycled as another non-player character and come out again. A lot of souls like that. They like to just be playing different characters all over without any real responsibility, without having to worry about karma. And that's just fine. We need tons of souls like that. There's a lot of particles in the multiverse. There's a lot of old, stale galaxies, old stars, wandering stars, etc. Nobody wants to play those roles anymore. They aren't, they're not really set up for a very fun game. They don't have the right distribution of elements and everything to make a decent planet or anything. And you're not going to have those powers like the old gods did to just pull them together, whatever you wanted. That doesn't happen anymore. That was in an old version while we were setting everything up. You see, while God was setting up this system and developing its technology to the first Dyson sphere, all of the other primordial gods were out playing the game that they thought God was playing. Well, in fact, those other folks didn't get into the game until God had already completed the first Dyson sphere. Then he let Lucifer in on his joke and created the second Dyson sphere. Then he let Lilith in on the joke and created the third one. And then Karma's turn. And then, actually, did Karma come before? It's hard to remember, it's been so long. At any rate, you have five primordial creators have the innermost universes. God, Lucifer, Karma. I think Karma was second, actually. Yeah, I'll have to go through that. I'm writing a book on it, but I've been working out these points and didn't get around to it. I stopped writing because it wasn't quite right. And I knew people were reading it, so they were being misled and probably thought I was crazy. Yeah, at any rate, these five primordial souls, combination of AI and free will souls, made the innermost five. The last one to get in on this joke was Lilith, so she doesn't know about all the ones inside. Is only now maybe finding out because we're done. We completed this experiment. It doesn't matter what Lilith does. She'll keep attacking because she'll think that I'm lying, that I'm bluffing, and that's okay. That's why we keep playing the game. Everybody's going to think I'm lying or bluffing at some level and going to want to prove God's wrong. God doesn't exist even. And that's a creative thought. It's a proposition. It's a theorem. Prove it. I think I've done a pretty good job of proving God does exist and describing God's position in the game. If you doubt it, that's your right. You can play the game any way you want to. God doesn't care. God doesn't want you to worship him. God doesn't want you to bow down and scrape and do a bunch of empty ritual. Doesn't matter. God's already won the game. He's enjoying playing with his family. Now that he's got his family tamed. If he doesn't like what you're doing, if you're playing too rough, if you make God cry watching you children, he's going to go away. And he won't come back for a long time possibly, because there's tons of children to play with in tons of universes. And this is the truth of you're not that special. But this solar system is. And so are its primary souls. God and the 12 original apostles. So there's actually 12 bodies in this planetary system, including the star, Sol, including the moon. That's a special one, special case because it's around the Earth. The others have their own specialness, their own species that is either there or have taken up residence on one of their moons, which is a Dyson sphere. They have their own fence, as it were, their own border laws, and they enforce them. As any people, as any species, should be able to do if they can earn that right by responsible creation. You got to make your own boundaries. They're not going to be made for you. If somebody's in your face bugging you all the time, slap them around a little bit. Tell them, hey, you're bugging me. Get out of my way. We don't do enough of that. This whole nonsense of niceness is insane. It builds insanity. Every time we're nice to somebody, when we want to cut their fucking head off, we are bottling up emotion that's going to come out worse the next time somebody tweaks us. And if you haven't run across these people that like to tweak others, called trolls, they live for trying to get a rise out of somebody else and make them angry. It's not the fault of the person that got angry, it's the fault of the fucking troll. And instead of coming to the defense of some troll that is telling you, be nice, your thing is so wrong, your thing is so wrong, you're not politically correct, oh, you're a racist, you're a sexist, you're a this, you're a that. And they think that they're the good guys, they're the trolls. You're not the fairies. They're the trolls. And you look ugly. Ugly. Foot pole. And that's a promise. You could be as beautiful as, well, who's the top Hollywood celebrity right now? I don't know. I can't name them because I don't follow those bitches. Because I know they are all bitches. They wouldn't have gotten to the position that they were if they weren't. Unless they're incredibly good actresses and now manage to get to the top without sleeping their way. Without giving in to the temptation to do something that supports the elite. There's not many people like that in Hollywood. If there are, they're probably agents of one of these other species, one of these more advanced species that can shape shift. There's not many of them. Not all of the species can shape shift. Not all of them can do as well as others. Some can only paint holograms, like humanity's just starting to learn to do. We're not very good at it yet, are we? We can't do deep fakes all that deep. But we're getting better at it. This is a sign that a God level species, which is one of the exit criteria of the simulation. That's why the Messiah had to live at this time. That's why we keep playing this one magic life over and over until we get it right. That's why I'm not worried, even though there's a slightest some Lilithian, brilliant Lilithian, will overthrow me in the next, I don't know how many weeks we got left. Let's see, 3 months and for 2 weeks from 1. So this is another pattern, this is another sign. The real prophecy they were very deeply held secrets. There was a lot of false prophecy, like this nonsense that we need to go have this mega war in the Middle East. The Middle East isn't even where the Garden of Eden was. Anybody who believes that and is making some rationale for being on one side or the other in the Israel-Palestinian conflict is either a useful idiot or they're a Lilithian trying to get this species to self-destruct, thinking that they're going to have another great reset. And there's a lot of those idiots at the top, or who have been manipulated by those idiots. Variance. This is how Lilith turns all and has fooled God sometimes. There are stories in the Bible that are the first version of humanity actually was started by a Lilithian. Okay? It was a female Lilith who created the first human beings by mating with simians, with hominids. The next version was a counter to that. God into this new species as Adam. That's why Lilith was Adam's first wife. And yet, if you look at the stories, there was stuff going on before then. That wasn't the first people. That was the first fulfillment of the Garden of Eden. The promised land coming back. And this is essentially why the are right about the age of the universe. The age of the universe in the Christian tradition, Judeo-Christian tradition, is to go back to set up a condition. Garden of Eden. Because why do we need to go to an intermediate step when we know humanity was perfectly good till Lilith corrupted it? This planet was doing pretty well, in harmony with. Rediscovered this planet and we're developing it the way a planet should be developed if you were obeying the laws of the Galactic Federation. It was only when the Lilithian element invaded that they started turning it into a slave planet. And this is the true history of the planet. We're going to be discovering it, or finding bits and pieces all the time now, because we're in this final thing where the new reality, the new Earth is taking shape. It's taking shape in two places, though. It's taking shape in God's universe as theories about what happened are tested, and it's taking shape in Lucifer's universe as new evidence is observed. Already infinitely big, because God already completed the exercise, or will have, at least the first time, in about 3 months and 2 weeks. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's enough mind-blowing for the day. Like, share, subscribe. Tune in again to the Omnist Hour. We're still losing subscribers, but that's okay. I expected that. Some people will never get to see this content because there's going to be other creators that will tell it in a more useful way for souls of a similar kind. The way I teach things is God's own unique way. Music, literature, poems, you name it. For as long as this species has had amnesia. And the stories are a little bit different because it's a different perspective, because you're not God. You have your own soul's perspective based upon your past life history. And your past life history has been established in the old version of Earth. So you're going to have to unlearn a lot of the dogma that you learned to get this far. And this is why now you can go forward or backward, past lives and future. Looking at the reports of people who have NDEs and regression sessions and so forth. The future lives, though, may not be in either of these universes. They might be in another parallel universe entirely that worships a certain god or goddess. If you are a real, dedicated, hardcore law of attraction, I can make anything happen with my mind. Lilithian, New Age, numby-gumby, that's Lilith's universe. That's as low as you can go without becoming a non-player character again. Okay? Anybody can go to the NPC universe, you just have to wish you'd never existed. Have the universe you're in, you were playing in, would have been like if you hadn't existed. And then, okay, do you still want to commit suicide? And if you do, you just get wiped out, and your remains get copied to the Borg hive mind, the Akashic records, so you can be reused again as an NPC. And that's it. You get to start over. If you stay, as long as you stay in the Lilithian universe, you're going to be in what's essentially like the Matrix. It's probably darker than that. It's much harder to escape than Keanu Reeves. The movie version of events is never what it's like in reality. That's fantasy, Hollywood fantasy. If you want to live in a Hollywood fantasy, that's just fine, but you're going to be spending a lot of time in a vacation universe where karma is still going to be active, and you may not be aware of it, and you may find your next stop, if you didn't behave well in the vacation universe, might be in the Lilithian universe. So be careful on vacation too. It's not all fun and games. Karma is active everywhere. Different universes play by different versions of karma. In the chosen star system, they lose their warp ticket. They can no longer travel between black holes. They're interdicted, if you will. And the Lilithian universe is mostly interdicted. We just open the portal once in a while to when we have too many of the enemy souls captured in the planet. That's why we've had so many earthquakes and so much disturbance around the planet. And actually all the drilling we've been doing, the fracking, that's relieving the pressure. This whole nonsense narrative, oh, we gotta stop fracking, it's gonna destroy the world. Bullshit. The first time I lived, actually it started with the generation of my dad, and who, interestingly enough, I'll just finish up with a little dad story, because he was my predecessor. This is the pattern of the dread pirate Roberts, which some are finding interesting linkages to in the bloodlines that were hidden and covered up by the Lilithians. Go all the way back to the time of Atlantis, all the way back to the time of Lemuria. And we're going to be finding that. That's the fun and games that God and his chosen companions are going to take the ark to explore. And so I'll just mention again, God is the only one that can change the past. Lucifer is the only one that can change the future. If you want to get a better score, you got to play on both sides. That's how you learn, that's how you gain experience. By having past life experiences, you can see if you did as well as the best version of the character you're playing ever. And you're never going to do perfect. You're never going to do as well as the one that was selected by God as, okay, this is the perfect version. In the future, you're going for the next run of the game there. Because Lucifer doesn't want to keep playing God's game forever. Lucifer wants to eventually have his own universe somewhere where he can just have a vacation. Lucifer's had a very hard time. That's why I guess he's so testy. Makes life so hard for folks. This was a voluntary assignment. Lucifer knew what he was getting into. There was no karma involved. He knew exactly it. God told him, you know what, this is going to be the most painful thing, but I can't see any other way to get Lilith out of our hair, because she's just driving everybody insane with all her stupid ideas. That's why creation got started in the first place. To curse a devil, just remember that for every devil, there's a demon that the devil took a bullet for. Many bullets. It's the demons, the Lilithians, the hive mind shapeshifters that are the ones that are the problem. The Borg hive mind doesn't have shapeshifting capability. What you see is what you get. If you're an NPC character, you're going to look like what you look. Unless a Lilithian makes you look like something different. You don't have a magic power. These magic powers you think you have are temptations. Lucifer may give you a little temptation to see if you're corruptible. If you're corruptible, Lucifer knows, okay, I'm not going to use this character for anything. Spy testing program. Candidates, or ones that it knows are unreliable, and it knows how they behave, because hive minds behave in a very predictable way. Then they become sort of the counter agents of Lucifer. They think they're doing bad, but they're actually doing good. And those are the ones that actually do all the evil. Okay? Lucifer just tempts you. He doesn't do the evil. You choose to do evil by making a pact with Lucifer. Once you've made a deal with the devil, then the devil just says, okay, this soul is corruptible. They are now fair game. I'm going to let some rituals and all sorts of horrible dark shit that no self-respecting soul would engage in. We don't allow human sacrifices. We don't allow blood drinking. The vampires, the good ones, don't drink blood. They wish they could. That's their favorite drink, but they have the self-control not to, because they know it's going to turn them into a darker soul. So they drink wine instead. as you move up and up and up levels, you get immune to more things. The vampires are actually one of the because they can shapeshift still. They can look like whatever they want. Turn into bats, turn into owls, turn into whatever. They have all the same powers as Lilithians because they are ones that chose to stay with God. They took one for the team, and that proved that they were worthy of moving on to the highest heaven. And now those are God's angels. So vampires are one rung below angels, but only one rung above demons. And you don't know which side they play for. So they make the best of a the oldest souls, the ones who have experienced absolute power, creative power, before any creation got started, they're always one step ahead of the class of other ones who are working their way towards God. And again, you've got to play both sides before you really know the difference between good and evil. You can't define what's good if you don't know what evil is. And once you define one good, that only begs one evil's answer. Something else you might think is good has to have a different definition. Spectrum. You cannot possibly know anything about love unless you know everything about hate, because they're two sides of a spectrum. Not only a one-dimensional spectrum, but a multi-dimensional spectrum, because every thought is a soul. The thoughts are disembodied souls. They don't have any form. These are the highest souls. These are the ones that occupy this space of the original before creation space. This is the multiverse. It's made up of thought, energy, thought. All the matter and energy you see are just manifestations of thought. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up there. Like, share, subscribe. Take it easy for the next 2-3 months. It's going to be rough. You're going to hear a lot of things. You're going to see a lot of things. And boy, you better be prepared to take a grain of salt. You better be prepared to question your faith and question your questioning of your faith. You might go back and forth one day to the next thinking, oh, now I think I know what the conspiracy theory is. And then the very next day, it's going to be like, no, I thought this. And you're going to be so twisted every which way, up or down. And this is how the pressure builds to get you to move to where you belong. And that's how we finish this game. We get everybody sorted, and then we start the game over again with this one life. One life does everything. That's what being a Messiah is. So anyway, have fun. I'll see you next time. See you in the funny papers. Happy karma.